Hi BookTube. I thought I'd make a video. Today is June the 3rd. It is 4:24 in the afternoon. Sitting in the dining room, 77 degrees. Today my wife and I went on a thrift store crawl, and we visited 8 thrift stores. It's kind of like an event that some of these thrift stores all work together, and you go to thrift stores and you put your name, and there's a drawing and you can win prizes. And my wife wanted to go, and I thought I'd go and look at used books. And so this is the used books I got today at the thrift store crawl. The first one I found was a novel by Ronnie Dow, A Star Called Henry. I found out, hey, there's a receipt for it. Hey, I paid $1.06 when I was there. When I got home, I found out from Library Thing I already had this by Ronnie Dow. So tomorrow, when I volunteer at the library used bookstore, I'll donate it. And then I found a novel by Penelope Lively. I collect her. This one I didn't have, which amazes me because I can't keep track. I have many of her novels. And so this one's called Judgment Day by Penelope Lively. She's one of my favorite writers. She won the Booker Prize for her novel Moon Tiger. And then I found this Penguin classic, The Golden Legend by Jacobus de Borin. I can't spell that. But The Golden Legend is one of the central texts of the Middle Ages, a superb summary of saints' lives and religious festivals which decisively influenced the imagery of poetry, painting, and stained glass. So I found that. And I found this James Joyce, The Early Years. It's called My Brother's Keeper, James Joyce Early Years by Stanislaus Joyce, which was James Joyce's brother. It's edited with introduction and notes by Richard Ellman, who wrote a famous biography on James Joyce, and the preface is written by T.S. Eliot. I got this from my James Joyce collection. Then I found this novel called Sirens into Vintage Contemporaries. You can't go wrong buying vintage contemporary novels or Vikings, but I like this series, and this is a novel called Sirens by Stephen Pett. And it was recommended by Frederick Bush, who I collect, and James Crumbly, who I collect in the back. When I go to thrift stores, I look at who publishes a book, like a Penguin classic, vintage, Viking, New Directions, a New York notable book, New York book review books, books that win prizes, like this one, the National Book Critics Circle Award winner. This is by Nicholas Baker. I already had this in hardback, but I like the cover of the paperback. And this is called Double Fold, Libraries and the Assault on Paper. And then, this is published by, this is published by. This is a Berkeley Books. This is called Rich Man's Table by Scott Spencer. This is a novel. It says here, one of the things describes the novel. Well, even Stephen King recommended it. A fabulous book that catches the spirit of its time. The New Yorker wrote, told with wit and assurance. It says here, this kind of sold me on the novel, and these are kind of novels I like, so I'll read in the back here of this Rich Man's Table. From the acclaimed author of Endless Love, this brilliant, bittersweet novel follows the story of a directionless young man in search of his father and the legendary musician who was the object of his chase. Billy Rothschild's mother is a beautiful former flower child who has slipped from the forefront of the 60s counterculture to a life of rural isolation and secret drinking. His father, whom he has never met, is none other than Luke Fairchild, the gravel-voiced American icon who first rose to fame in the coffee houses of Greenwich Village. Billy is determined to find Luke, to make him acknowledge his paternity, that he is father. But there are many others looking for Luke too, and Billy tends to blend with the crowd. For the fans, the followers, the critics, and the biographers, solving the puzzle of Luke Fairchild is a passion. But for Billy, the search for the superstar feels like a search for his very own soul. So it looks pretty interesting. Author of Waking the Dead and the New York Times notable book Men in Black. So I'm going to put him on my list for authors to collect. Scott Spencer. And then I found this Larry McMurphy little book on Crazy Horse. I collect this series. These are the Penguin Live series. I think I just bought Jane Smiley on Charles Dickens, and I have Gary Wills on St. Augustine, and I don't have anything else. I'd like to find that Ida O'Brien on James Joyce. Anyway, this is Larry McMurphy on Crazy Horse. And I found this book. It's called The Circus. It's called The Circus Age, Culture and Society Under the American Big Top. This was published by the University of North Carolina Press, Chapel Hill. It looked really interesting. I like cultural studies. It looked really interesting. So I got that, and I found this New York Review book, The Anatomy of Melancholy by Robert Burton. I've been looking at this book for many, many years. I read this book way back in the 1970s, and I found it today for 60 cents. So that was really a find for me. The Anatomy of Melancholy. This was first published in, I think it was published, Robert Burton lived from 1577, he died in 1650. So yeah, this was written way back in the 17th century, but it's a very famous book. So I got that. My wife and I collect books on the Navajos and the Pueblo Indians in the Southwest, and we have a lot of books by Frank Waters, but we didn't have this one, Masked Gods, Navajo and Pueblo Ceremonialism by Frank Waters. We have his book, The Man Who Killed the Deer, People of the Valley. We like his writings. And I found this book. I read this book a year or 2 years ago. It's by John Calvin, the French Reformation theologian, The Bondage and Liberation of the Will, a defense of the Orthodox doctrine of human choice against Pelagius. So I got that. I had this already, but I bought it for charitable cause. Then I found these short stories by Ethan Kane, The Palace Thief. I have this in paperback. This is a hardback edition, short stories. Then I have this, The Passion of Artemisia by Susan Vinland. I collect her writings. I have 3 other novels by her. This is a novel by the Israeli writer Amos Oz. Last year I bought his memoirs, his autobiography, and this is his novel, Finma. This is translated out of Hebrew by, by Nicholas D. Langs. This is his novel, Finma. And then I found this big book. This is over, it's like 760 pages. The Quincux by Charles Palliser. So I got that. And I found this by Annis Nin, Incest from a Journal of Love. The previous unpublished, unexpurgated diary, 1932 to 1933. This is for my Annis Nin and Henry Miller collection. And then I found this novel, Songs for the Missing, a novel by Stuart Onen. I found out I already had this, so I'll donate this to the Book Nook tomorrow. And then I got a free book, The Complete Stories and Parables of Francis Kafka. I already have this. I have a large collection on Kafka in my library. So those are the books I got today on our thrift store crawl. It was a good. I have thrift store. I visit thrift stores also this week and got a bunch of books, but I didn't bring them up. They're down in the lower level, so I'll show those maybe some other time. So those are the books I got today. Today I basically read my Puritan book on heavenly, on walking with God, or heavenly mindedness by the Puritan Jeremiah Burroughs. Well, this morning we left early, but we would have gone 5 hours on this thrift store crawl. So I don't know what I'll read tonight. So today is a Friday, and so tomorrow I donate some time at the Hendrick District Public Library used bookstore from 10 to 1. And so anyway, so that's what's going on here, and I'm hoping that you'll have a good weekend, and I hope you have a good weekend reading too. Till next time, bye.